This is a looter, and this is hundreds of us storming a castle. However, this is just one of 6 units we'll be playing as in Bannerlord as we make our way up to the highest tier. And to start it all off, we'll be jumping in as the looter. Oh god, this is going to be interesting. Now to give you some perspective, these guys are literally the worst troops available. And in a game where the whole goal is to recruit a standing army strong enough to conquer the world, they don't really even stand a chance. Which brings us here. We're starting things off with a one-on-one looter vs looter battle. After spending some time converting some and getting ourselves our own gear, we're ready to confront the enemy. Now keep in mind while you laugh at all my missed shots here, that with each unit that we play as, we literally set our stats to match. So with looters being literally bad at everything, we're also bad at everything. It's definitely not a skill issue that I'm unable to land any of my swings here, okay? So with the final evil looter being taken down, we get our first win. Which reminds me, I should probably go over the rules of the challenge, not just for the looters here, but for every troop we'll be playing as going forward. First, they will need to pass through level 1 beating a group of bandits. Seeing as the looters were able to make it through, I really hope we don't run into issues here. Then at level 2, we must successfully raid a village. We won't be doing this for the resources though, it's really all about the village battle that usually comes with it. At level 3, we'll be taking on a lord or lady of one of the factions. This means that we'll be facing against a full-fledged miniature army. And once we hit the 4th and last level, we'll need to conquer a settlement. Or fief for those Bannerlord pros watching. If at any of these levels I lose a battle, we'll start back at level 1, upgrading our units and adding 20 troops to our army. But for now, back to our looters. So after completing level 1, we start level 2. The village raid. Somehow, we got super lucky and we're basically faced with just their neighborhood watch. Now that I think of it, I don't think I've ever faced so few villagers in one of these raids. Anyways, we start off by grabbing cover behind a nearby house to avoid getting shot by their archers. After just a few moments, they finally get within range for us to spring our trap. Hey, we actually did it. Not gonna lie, I totally didn't think that we were gonna make it through this level with looters. But a win's a win, so on to the next level. And at level 3, we're fighting a lord or a lady. And we just so happen to have stumbled across a small party. Not that it's looking too good for us either way. Since we're all just low-ranking infantry, I don't really have much of a strategy here. So we make a run for the hills to hopefully grab a bit of cover from their archers. We do manage to find ourselves in a position where the cavalry won't be able to charge us from all sides. Not that that's gonna matter much. Yeah, that's what I thought. I think that it's safe to say that we didn't do so hot here. Now, although that the looters are down for the count, I thought it would be fun to see hundreds of these guys storm a castle. So be sure to stick around for that later. For now, back to the next on the list. The Vlandian Levy Crossbowman. These guys are rank 2 units that at least have a ranged weapon. So after gathering up an additional 20 troops, we make our way over to our level 1 encounter. My go-to strategy for battles like these is pretty simple. Find some high ground, and spray and pray until no enemies are left. I swear my aim isn't usually this bad. At least the gang took down about 90% of them, so the cleanup here is quick and easy. Now moving on to level 2. We arrived back to the same village as before. This time, however, we find ourselves against a more reasonable amount of troops. Now, with no high ground to clamber to, we decide to take a different approach to this encounter. We split our troops into 2 groups, placing each one on opposing sides of each other. This should create a sort of kill zone down the middle where we'll be waiting. And it worked almost perfectly. Not a single one of our troops were lost. Now, moving on to level 3. We run into a decently sized group, but honestly, I really don't have much hope here. But we'll give it our best shot. The terrain is a little more rugged here, so we might be able to work something out where we have the high ground. Hopefully from this vantage point, we'll be able to take out more of them than they can of us. Oh, no. Yeah, this doesn't look so good. Yep, just what I expected. At least we did a little better than we did with the looters. With our crossbowmen down, it's time to move on to our next troop, the Aserai Mumuleke regular. Our rank 3 troops are now on horseback, and we're equipped with a spear as well as a sword and shield. Now, seeing as we're getting quite a bit stronger, I think it's about time that we up our level 1 difficulty. This time around, we'll be facing off with some desert bandits. They also have a couple of units on horseback, but seeing as we're in a 60v16 situation, we shouldn't run into any problems here. Just as suspected. Which brings us to our level 2 raid. This time around, I wanted to split the troops up again with a similar idea to last time. We'll create a kill zone down the middle and send both sides in at the same time to collapse down on the enemies. But things didn't really go as planned. Yeah, I almost died for nothing. But after regaining control of the situation, we finish up the raid and get ready for level 3. And for the first time so far, we actually outnumber them, giving us a slight edge. The only issue is we're fighting in a forest, which wouldn't be a big issue, except that the cavalry don't tend to do well in forests. There's a lot less room to take advantage of their greatest strength, charging. But with our entire party getting stopped to a grinding halt pretty much immediately, there wasn't really much we could do to save the situation. We actually got owned so bad here that our character actually died. I've played multiple hundreds of hours of this game, and I have never seen my 20-year-old character die in battle before. Anyways, let's forget about that one and move on to our next troop, the Sturgian Linebreaker. We return back to footmen for our tier 4 troop, now with an 80 unit party. This time for our bandits of choice, we go for some sea raiders. Jeez. So Linebreakers. These guys are pretty hefty berserkers. They don't have much armor, but they pack quite a punch with their two-handed maces. I like to think of them like the barbarians of Bannerlord. Once they finally close the gap with the enemy, they're really a force to reckon with. Like I was saying, once they close the gap. It's like a wave of death just washed over these guys. Although they're strong, the trade-off is pretty high considering we lost 7 of them to bandits. So after quickly replenishing the supply, we move on to level 2. Here, the strategy is similar to the looters. Take cover from the arrows early on, and hit them hard when they're close. And with another level 2 complete, only losing 4 troops this time, we head out to find our challenger for level 3. Hopefully this time we'll finally break through to our level 4 fief battle. And as we finally make contact with a suitable opponent, we find ourselves in a pretty open battlefield. You see, here is where I would have preferred fighting in a forest. Regardless, we managed to make our way up to a vantage point. This will once again give their cavalry only 1 access point. But of course, they decided to just post up down in the ravine and fire arrows up at us from there. The longer we sit up here, the more casualties we'll face. So without much of a choice, we charge the enemy. Well, that didn't go as planned. At this rate, are any of the troops going to make it through to level 4? Anyways, moving on to our second to last troop at tier 5, we have the Battanian Fian. These sharpshooters are one hell of a unit to mess with. With 100 of these snipers on our side, we really shouldn't have any issue dealing with the bandits at level 1. But while trying to set up a step bandit encounter to mix things up a little bit, we actually come across 2 decently sized looter groups to tackle instead. Now, just like with the Vlandian Levy crossbowmen, we ideally want to find some high ground to perch ourselves on top of to fire down at the enemy. But seeing as we're fighting out in the Khuzait steppes, we'll have to face off on even ground. Man, they did not stand a chance. Now for level 2, we head back to the border of the desert to hit up the same villages as before. We don't even bother to set up a kill zone down the middle this time around. The whole village is a kill zone. Not gonna lie, if I saw these guys line up outside my village, I would not be saying hi to Grandma today. Hey, first hit. I literally only landed 1 shot there. Things seem to finally be looking up for us. Now, I'm feeling pretty confident going into level 3 this time. And after spending a few days scouting around for the perfect candidate for us to face off against, we finally find a suitable match. Ooh, it's pretty tight. Once again, we find ourselves on a forest map for the battle. It's not such a bad thing since we'll probably have some cavalry, but they'll also be able to dip in and out between the trees to avoid our arrows. Luckily, there's a small ridge off to the side that we can post up on right from the start, which should give us a pretty decent advantage. And after getting perfectly set up on it, we notice that the enemy isn't moving. Perfect. That usually happens when you're commanding a stronger army than the opponent. So after finding a spot a little bit closer to them to set up shop, hey, level 3 complete. With only 14 troops lost too. After quickly replenishing our troops, we're finally on to level 4. Conquering a fief. And we aren't going after some random one either. We're attacking a town. These tend to be a little more fortified with a larger garrison and more militia, but if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it big. And would you look at that? Looks like the garrison is gonna meet us outside. Now unfortunately we spawned on the flat side of the map. But there is a river that we can take advantage of that'll slow their troops down as they cross it. However, we get into position a little too slowly and their cavalry start to engage us before we're ready. Luckily, we managed to take down the horsemen before too much damage is sustained. This gives us the chance to get into the position I wanted to from the start and rain down some arrows on the enemies crossing the river. There's so many. Even with a superiorly ranked army, their numbers were just too much. We did manage to take out 2/3 of them, but it just wasn't enough. Which now brings us to our 6th and final troop, the Khuzait's Khan's Guard. These units are absolute beasts. They are rank 6 horse archers that have the stats to boot. It literally took me hours to scour the Khuzait plains to find all of the armor pieces needed to put this guy together. But less on that, let's jump right into our level 1 challenge. We just so happen to find the perfect mountain bandit group as we exit the Khuzait lands. I honestly thought that we'd be spawning into a much more forested area considering where we were on the map, but this is just perfect. Our main strategy will be to lure the bandits out into the open. So after dispatching of their few cavalry troops, we make our way over to their footmen. Here, we'll simply split our army into 2. We'll post each group up at different angles to the bandits so that when they use their shield wall to protect themselves from the arrows, they'll always have a weak spot. For us, our sole job will be to circle around the infantry units to distract them and keep them in place. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. For level 2, we finally mix things up a little bit. After trying to raid the same villages as earlier and the villagers not wanting to come out to confront us, we finally find some willing participants. Usually we'd set up a kill zone like we did with the Levy Crossbowman, but just like the Fians, these guys can handle it without adding any strategy to the mix. And another easy level completed. Now finding the perfect army to fight isn't always easy. Most lords and ladies travel around the map at around 100 troops, or they're part of an actual army. But after a little bit of soul searching, we find one that'll do. Now we did intentionally go after a lord that was in a more open area of the map. The plan here is simple. Take out their horse archers first, then their archers, hopefully without our Khan's guard running into their infantry. Once they actually do, it's time to regroup and post up for the finale. And with that last little charge, the enemy breaks and we're able to clean up the rest. Level 3 complete. Now for our final challenge with our last group of troops. We head back to Huston Folk for the grand finale. This time around, there are fewer troops than before, so we should be all set to go if we can get this siege part done before any army shows up. Great. Looks like we'll need to cut the welcoming party short. With a decent amount of siege engines built, we should have a pretty good chance here. After making sure that both of our onagers are operational, we hitch a ride with our siege tower and slowly make our way over to the wall. And with our final bow shot, we claim victory over the fief. So after playing as 6 different troops, we finally managed to complete level 4. But hey, let's not forget our looters. I mean, it's pretty bad. Literally hundreds of these guys are just climbing up the ladder, getting stuck at the top, and dying right then and there. At some point, we gotta put an end to this. So there you have it. There's honestly so many more ideas that I have for this type of video, so if you enjoyed, make sure to let me know in the comments. But if you want to see me go from beggar to dragonborn in Skyrim, check out this video on screen now. See you there!